Nursery is not appropriate for those under 18 years old. Coming to you from websites thirdclass.net and bullskit.com, Nursery is sponsored by the Orange Avocado, raw gluten-free desserts. Check them out on Facebook. The Speaking of Music Show, an audio editorial program about music of yesterday and today. Check them out on YouTube. Timeless Shots Photography, capturing moments for all occasions at timelessshots.com. And Leslie Cusano, Cusano Photography at lesliecusanophotography.com. Find them on Facebook. Find them on Instagram as all one word, Cusano Photography. We need sponsors to fund our tours, comedic endeavors, and podcast promotion. If you have a local organization or business and you're interested in sponsoring an episode of Nursery, email me at cloegrave@gmail.com. CHLOEGRAVE@gmail.com. It's cheap, easy, and it's great promotion to a great demographic. Also, if you'd like to fund us with a small monthly donation, visit patreon.com/thirdclass, patreon.com/thirdclass. Thanks for listening.
It's cold in this neck of Ohio tonight, and the style is right for a sad winter song. I feel lost like a speck in a pile out of sight, and though I try with all might, I just don't feel that strong. As we walk through a field trekking on snowy dirt, my eyes start to hurt trying to see a smile, and we talk about fears making our story short. You are scared to get shot, your bravery goes for miles, and there's more miles to go as we walk the train tracks. I think we lost the rain back in the woods we just hiked, and the store signs can glow as you walk sidewalk cracks. I think we lost the town back trading street lamps for kites.
Hey guys, welcome to Nursery, a podcast from Ohio's creative. My voice sounds weird. This is Stephen Pullis. Tell him what you do, who you are, that kind of thing.
Hi, I work in a steel mill, and I'm running an art gallery, so it's the opposite of all worlds.
That's good, man. You need one to balance the other out. Practicality and art. So what's this art gallery?
So it's called the Soap Gallery. It is on 117 South Champion Street. It's across from the Ohio 1 building. We'll be opening up in October. Our first show will be October 2nd. We're going to have a big, giant opening gala group show with about 12 artists from all over the U.S. And Third Class is playing, I believe.
Oh yeah, October 3rd, guys. I know I plug our stuff a lot on this cast. Second. October 2nd. Yeah, sorry guys, October 2nd.
Gotta keep both days if you want.
Yeah, I have a show the next day somewhere else. That's why I'm getting that confused. But yes, October 2nd, guys. Soap Gallery, Third Class. Some acoustic form of us will be there. It'll be awesome. I'm pumped just that there is an art gallery opening, let alone that it's Stephen's art gallery. What kind of art, if any, are all kinds accepted there?
Our big one rule is that it has to be something that's clean and bright. We're a little tired of all the decay and rust. Mm-hmm. And that just, I know that's a big, huge trend locally in our area, but I don't think it plays well nationally. It's good to have an identity, but I think our identity needs to be something that's based on something positive rather than something that is rusting away.
So are you saying that you're looking for like to change it to like from rust belt to like colorful neon belt?
I don't know about neons, but I do think that it should be something that is represents our area as a whole, holistically. That it's something that's not decay or falling away or abandoned. Something that is showing that there's life still in these bones.
That sounds good. I think that there's a hard line to walk sometimes with stuff like that, which I love art with bright colors. I'm a huge fan of stuff like that. and just stuff that's like crisp, maybe things like that. But there's a hard line to walk because sometimes you get into the point where something is just kind of all of a sudden just turns into branding, and to an extent that's necessary. But where do you draw the line as far as like visual art goes? You know what I'm talking about? Like when people do like 80 of the same print in different colors, that sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Where do you draw the line?
That's a good question. I think because we're just opening up and we're just starting, it's tough to say where that line is. I obviously won't do a show that has 80 of the same thing and that's it. It has to have variety to it. The one cool thing that we're going to do is we're going to take one print from every show and one image from every show and make it into a print. Have the artist autograph it and we'll sell it in the gift shop. So that way we can build up a print library. The worst thing for a gallery is you walk in, you see the same stuff you saw last month. It has to be fresh. It has to be something different every single time you walk in. Even if you're moving paintings around or putting a permanent collection up when in between shows, there has to be something fresh and clean that's new every single time you show up.
That's awesome, man. I like that mentality, and I was gonna ask you about like, you know, what that. What I mean is I like your answer for what kind of art's going to be there. It's a nice specific answer, but it doesn't like limit anybody as far as visual genre goes very much. I like that you're like, hey, we're just looking for kind of brighter, some, you know, maybe almost more defined is kind of the thing too.
Yes, exactly.
And then I guess also it paints a good picture, yeah, I guess, of course, paints a picture, but of Ohio when you talk about that, because there's this weird grunginess to Ohio that sometimes needs to be cast off in certain occasions. Where do you think that comes from?
I think that just comes from our history. We grew up, especially you and I are around the same age, we grew up with driving around town and seeing abandoned mills and these huge complexes that were rusted out and decaying, and that became kind of part of our mentality. And I don't think it was necessarily a bad thing. Mm-hmm. I think that we need to change that definition of who we are, because we're not that anymore.
Yes.
Almost all those mills have been knocked down. We're talking about cleaning up the river, making parks where there used to be mills, changing the mentality of what art is. Mm-hmm. And there's no reason why we can't redefine that for our area. Sure, that's our core, but I think you need to hang on to the blue collar mentality, which this area has, and it's a huge positive for us. But let go of, we lost 50,000 jobs on Black Monday. That happened 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's time to progress and move on.
Well, that's pretty cool, man. I'm no stranger to the idea that Ohio is definitely nodded at for like art and music and stuff. As much as we like to, look at it only through economic turmoil, it seems that many people have given Ohio the stamp of approval as far as origins of good art, origins of great music, obvious things like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and hardcore touring acts that come from here are really a point of pride with me, and I hope that snowballs into something that's has a larger effect. I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket and thinking that, oh, we're gonna be Hollywood now, but do you think that when you and me are old and gray that Ohio will be just a completely different place than we thought about it in the last 10 years to be?
Ohio is such an interesting state. I haven't been around the entire country, but I've been to probably about 20 or 30 states. And there are certain states that are like Ohio, and you see physical characteristics such as Indiana or Pennsylvania. But specifically our area, specifically Ohio as a whole, is such a blending. There's such a melting pot, which I hate to use that term.
That's okay though, it applies.
That there's every type of culture that you can see around the U.S. exists within our local communities. So, for example, you can have a redneck in Youngstown, Ohio. And you can have a thug in Youngstown, Ohio. You can have someone that's in the arts, and you have someone that can care less about the arts. You have every type of individual that I've seen across the country here in Ohio. So, in 10 years, I think we're going to look pretty much the same in a lot of ways. I think I'm more focusing on a micro level rather than a macro level in Youngstown, where I want to try to see a shift in the perception of art and increase the importance of it. I want to tie art in together with culture, because they are hand in hand. And everything that I want to do as a gallery and as a person needs to benefit culture. So, for example, like we're gonna have a poetry night. That's not going to give me any sales whatsoever, and I don't care because I want people to have more culture, have more appreciation for the arts, more appreciation for visual and audio. So, one of the cool ideas that we're toying with right now is, and it's not even anything that we can put on social media, have two major acts in an art pit. Two major huge bands that are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, doing 2-hour sets with live painting, and it be broadcast on the internet.
Nice.
Stuff that our area has never seen before. And we're also going to do something called Soap at Susie's, where every month we will have a new band come in and an artist live paint to that band's songs.
That's pretty awesome. So if I can sum up correctly and take some license, what I'm hearing from you is it's not so much that Ohio will go through a large transformation period. It'll be more like the focus from Ohio will be shifted to the things that always have shined in us. Like, as in, to use a cruddy example, the librarian who takes her glasses off and puts her hair down. That's Ohio, correct? We have this low self-esteem about things about us that have always been there and been good and strong, right?
Yeah, that's really well stated. Yeah, we have this inferiority complex. Our previous state motto was the heartland of America. And I think that still applies, and it's not just the image of the state looking like a heart. I mean, we truly are, when it comes to presidential races, when it comes to social issues. We have a sitting senator that's a Republican that's one of the only ones that is in favor of gay marriage because his son's gay. He got a lot of flack from the other side, but that's progressive. And that's what we are, regardless of what party you're in.
That's true, man. Ohio is progressive. Sometimes you have to turn the angle a little bit to see that, but for overall it isn't. And your commentary on the culture, I particularly enjoy that because, like, you do have, like, I'm exaggerating a little here, but you have, like, those Toledo, Cleveland people that have this tiny hint of that Chicago, Wisconsin thing happening.
Yeah.
And then you have these people that, like, 10 minutes south of where we are walking right now in the Boardman, Youngstown area, 10 minutes south, who are like, hey, man,
yeah,
I go to Kent State, East Liverpool, and if I hadn't, and right next to them in the same town, East Liverpool, Negley, Calcutta, whatever, are these people that sound like me, or whatever I sound like. Stuff like that. And when you said thugs and rednecks, seriously, I mean, in all seriousness, man, I've seen plenty and plenty and plenty of black rednecks and white thugs.
Oh, yeah.
And that's Ohio.
The cool thing is, they can be at the same bar together. There's specifics, but we tend to get along pretty well together, and that's important.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a thing where people maybe had initially been united by a certain type of economic suppression, but then banded together and pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and
it's not like jobs are coming in by the thousands and thousands here, but people are holding on and they're making a living and carving out a life, and it's nice to see. And I'm like you, man. I work in a warehouse, and then on the other side of the coin do, art, music, and comedy, and podcasts, and whatever. So sometimes those opposites balance each other, and that's good. But let me get into asking you then what all this contextually means for you spiritually or religiously.
I think I grew up evangelical. There was not much appreciation of art at all. The only appreciation of it was musically, if you can get people to sing a song and raise their hands and react emotionally. And I did that for most of my life. Up until I was about 26 or so, 27, which was, that's 5 years ago. But historically, if you look at art as a whole, going back from the beginning genesis of the church, there was a deep appreciation for it. If you walk into any old historic Catholic church, the murals and the paintings and the stained glass are not for effect. It's for the appreciation of the art, and they brought in artists to create art in symmetry with religion. And us modern, we don't have that same appreciation, and they don't link. In our minds, they're two separate things. And I think if you can kind of stir the pot a little bit for the appreciation of it, and show something that's beautiful and tie it to something spiritual, then you create an experience. It's not just a picture. And honestly, because we grew up in such a canvas that was stained black in a lot of ways, starting to see some of those colors come to life is a spiritual experience, in my opinion. And it's different for everyone else. But it's the same thing as when you listen to your favorite band, play your favorite song, and you get goosebumps because you're singing along. That is a religious experience, in my opinion.
That's pretty cool.
It's a spiritual thing. It's a connection. You're connecting with the words and the chords, and it just revives something on the inside of you. I believe that's a spiritual experience. It's the same thing when you see a painting or you create a work of art, and it resonates with you. That we have to change perception. It's just a piece of artwork, or it's just a song. It's an experience.
So it's nice to take that into the backdrop of Ohio. If someone's looking at a piece of art or listening to a piece of music or hearing a poem or reading this or that, they do that in this state with Ohio in mind and its reputation. It, of course, probably enhances the experience, but focus on music only. You segued me nicely into kind of what I'd like to ask you next. And let me preface this by saying, I know you have the appreciation for the cheesy stuff too, so if you give me an answer that is more serious or artistic, I know that you're just well-rounded. But when I first met you, this is how I met you. I was at Lemon Grove, the original location in downtown Youngstown, in the plaza there, and I looked up and I saw a relatively large, if I remember correctly, group of mostly young men up on the stage singing "Turn Around Every Now and Then" karaoke at Lemon Grove. So, I don't know, that was, you were probably about 28 or so? Or younger, yeah. So I know you maybe, at least at that point, had the appreciation for cheesy pop, which I, of course, do. So what do you like? What's your music?
Well, let me tell you the genesis of Turn Around Bright Eyes. Meatloaf, fantastic. So this comes back to my evangelical days. We were going to go on a missions trip to Colombia. And we had everything booked. We were ready to go. And the drug cartel took over, and we weren't able to go to Bogota, Colombia. So I don't know why. I mean, it would have been a great trip. I could have got some drugs. I could have, got out all that shit early. But so we were practicing skits to get the locals in Colombia to do street performances. And and we did a skit to Turn Around Bright Eyes because we thought it's a song that everyone might have heard down there. So I've always cheesed that song up as much as possible.
So that meant more to you than I even thought it did at the time.
Yeah, of course,
You didn't just randomly select something.
No, I selected it because I did it before, and it's a hilarious song if you think about it. Especially with the cannonballs, you got to demonstrate everything.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So that's why I selected that. I was the group leader on that karaoke, and I'm sure alcohol might have been involved at that point. But
Sure. Well, you looked like you were having a blast. And, that was one thing I initially noted. I was like, hey, look at that young kid up there with all those kids there. Those guys are having so much fun, man. Those guys look fresh out of high school. And then somebody leaned over and was like, dude, that dude's a year older than you. And I was like, what? What? And that made it all the better. I was like, this guy's young at heart, man. This guy is young at heart.
I still get carded for lottery tickets. I'm okay with it.
I can't believe it, man. I'm 31 years old right now. How old are you?
31?
31, so you're not even a year older than me, but still.
Yeah.
I was in the bar looking like a 27, 28-year-old, and somebody told me your age, and I was like, I double took. I was like, what? No way. But in a good way,
Yeah, it always screwed me up with dating, too.
It did it. Imagine, though, when you're older, man, it'll work for your favor, right?
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think you bring up a point about enthusiasm and the lack of it sometimes here, especially with older generations. They're just so caught up in the shit that they can't put a smile on their face. They can't learn to enjoy themselves. And I think we, as a generation, have kind of changed the tide a little bit. Mm-hmm. We should also talk about Lemon Grove.
Sure.
Lemon Grove was for those listening to the podcast, Lemon Grove was a bar, restaurant, art gallery, coffee shop, and everything in between. It was one of the first places to come into downtown. Downtown was kind of a ghost zone for a good 10, 15 years. And a guy by the name of Jacob Harver had a crazy idea to create this. And it was kind of the central for culture for a good 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then it shifted and changed and moved. But that's where I first heard First Class. That's where I first had my own first show with photography. Abandoned chairs, which I can't even put in my own gallery. And that's where we all met and we all became friends. We would all hang out. I spent many a night on that couch. And I appreciate what Jacob did and what Jacob created. And I think that I'd like to continue that art legacy where I'm going.
That's pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, I did have an interview on an episode called Presidential Campaign Poetry and Crying with visual artist Eric Allman, a Youngstown native, and his art was hanging prominently in a Lemon Grove, and yeah, like you said, lots of different kinds of art all together, everything in between. Right. And that was a really nice thing to couple with the music they had there. Good band from Toledo, the Faux Pas, played with us there a couple times, and
yeah,
they're kind of girl version of Third Class or whatever you want to say. We just had a nice place in our heart for them, and we were the first band to play Lemon Grove because Jacob's that kind of guy. He was like, come, before it's really open, come play. He was one of those, like, let's do it, let's come in here and play when we're just, there was like walls going up or stuff going up or whatever, all kinds of weird stuff. And so it was fun to see that from the, even if that hadn't been the case, even if I hadn't walked in there when they were still building it, I would have felt like I was basically in on the ground floor by like meeting a lot of people, including you there and stuff. Like, a place that can have like cheesy karaoke and then have like an indie rock night and like a folk night and all this other stuff and hold its own, pretty much legendary at this point. Even though it's gone, it did kind of spark something because that place and Cedars were like the places to go see like original music, and Cedars has moved to Steel Street, and it sounds so good in there now. It sounds even better than it ever did before, and it's still a really big destination venue. But some of the other places that exist downtown, like Susie's, they probably got their spark from the Lemon Grove and Cedars, and a lot of the crowd kind of moved there.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, everyone that we associate with art and culture-wise was at one time at the Lemon Grove, and Jacob deserves credit for creating something incredible. Sad that it's not there anymore, but he's not done. He's got some stuff up his sleeve. Mm-hmm. He's got a spot on the 3rd floor of his building that is a gallery, and he's working on permits, and it's a beautiful spot. And I hope they can open so that we can work together and do some shows and shut down the city and do an art walk and do all kind of stuff. So
yeah, man,
I'm cheering that on.
And then what would you say in the framework of music, if you could take one song, take it with you forever, what would it be?
Oh man, I typically listen to a lot of indie stuff. I listen to I don't listen to very many popular music at all. Man, right now it would have to be probably a song by the band Copeland that had Christian roots, but they're one of my favorites. Early November is a little bit indie punk rock. I listen to everything from jazz to classical to indie rock and everything in between. So, and folk. I just saw. I went to Chautauqua. Mm-hmm. And
which is like only 2 hours from here, right?
It's 2 hours.
That's wild. I went there when I was a kid a lot.
So when I got married, second time, mm-hmm. One of my honeymoon gifts from a friend was a weekend in the honeymoon suite at Chautauqua Institution, and I'm like, why would I want to go to a religious institution on my honeymoon? Especially because I'm not affiliated with anything. I don't, dive into that very much anymore. Mm-hmm. And it ended up being such a great experience. Loved it, and we've gone back every year since. So this year we went for a week, and I got to see Punch Brothers, who...
cool. I know them. I like that.
So they were... And Bella Fleck and his wife.
Oh, man. My brother Jack loves that stuff. That was his, college music.
Really?
Yeah, he was so into it.
So I bought a mandolin because I want to learn how to play some of this stuff, and it's just astounding. I don't think they missed a single note.
That's wild. I was actually just having this little conversation on a thread on Facebook about how some of my favorite moments now, looking back on more like regular rock shows, is when they mess up.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like if I was at a show like that, Bela Fleck or Punch Brothers, it would part of the show would be the perfection of their instrumentation and the perfect execution. That's like a whole nother animal, It's like I was kind of talking about. It was neat to see Incubus or Radiohead mess up. I saw them mess up, and it was nice because it wasn't I was this is a train wreck. It would just humanize them, and it was fun. But I don't know that Punch Brothers and Bela Fleck are capable of messing up.
I don't think so, man. And it's amazing, especially on the mandolin, because those frets are not even a half an inch. They're a quarter inch, especially when you get up higher on the neck. It's incredible, and he just is dancing up there. Chris Thiele is the guy. He's taking over for what's that NPR show? Prairie Home Companion. He's actually taking over, which will be interesting in and of itself.
Wow, man!
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's cool to see bands that are outside of your typical range, because it gives you a greater appreciation for the style of music. Bluegrass is not country, and it's kind of R&B at some point. It's a blend, and it takes a lot of expertise to play. Mm-hmm. I learned that after I bought my stupid mandolin on eBay.
Also, I think it's a nice hip transition into a real adulthood for people you're in my age, because Bela Fleck and Punch Brothers, Punch Brothers were signed to Nonesuch, and they come at you through the avenues of Wilco and stuff like that. But make no mistake, we made it in there. We're in there. We're fans, and then you turn around, you realize, this is what my mom. This is stuff that my parents. This is what old white people listen to. These guys are. Exactly. It's you think you're not coming to a bluegrass festival as an old dude, but they tricked us. They tricked us. And there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, you'll listen to anything if you like it.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of the punchy poppy bluegrass, they throw in a freaking Bach sonata, and you're like, holy cow, how do you play that on a mandolin?
Before you know it, you find yourself listening to classical music and world music.
It all comes together, man.
At very least, adult contemporary. You see that people don't. Beck and Wilco, they're adult contemporary.
Oh yeah,
like
they were just drugged out.
Yeah.
I mean, Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. It was while he was just on his binge. That's why none of the lyrics make sense too much. It's just whatever rhymed at the moment. I'm trying to think of any particular one, but.
Well, that whole album could probably be spoken for that way, almost.
And it's legendary. I really recommend, if you guys are listening to this, to watch the documentary on how the album was made. It was phenomenal, and the fact that it almost didn't come out because of, was it Warner they were on?
Yeah, I think at least everything that they were dealing with was underneath Warner Brothers' umbrella.
Yeah, and then that was kind of spawned None Such Records to become what it is today.
Yeah.
With the people that are on it now.
Which, the conversation just got very white. But, like, that's what we are. And we, as you can hear, listener, from, like, Steven's responses, it's not, nobody's taking anything and being like, I won't ever listen to that, I won't listen to that. It's just that, like, they grab us through this kind of, like, this one gateway of, like, NPR style things, and then you just blow up into all these other possibilities after you get,
What do you want to go?
let's do this. So it's like, it starts real nerdy and geeky, but then, or even Christian. Your band. Who'd you mention first? You said had Christian roots.
Copeland.
It starts from like these weird avenues where like you might not actually be coming at it musically at first. It's just like this advertising that targets people like us, and then you just start exploring and you really open up into the gateways of music where
I mean, I wasn't allowed to listen to any music that wasn't Christian until I was about 16 years old. So I was pretty limited as far as
I guess that's what I'm saying. It's not, maybe I shouldn't call it white, but it's like the limited eye from which a young person comes at music. It always, their first couple loves kind of stay with them, but hopefully they change too, and it sounds like this band has changed.
They have. I think they won one of the albums of the year last year, and they're I think that whole scene has changed tremendously. I remember going to Christian music festivals and bands getting in trouble for drinking while they were there and things like that, and there was this movement to out who is not a Christian band, and David Bazan was really big with Pedro the Lion, and he showed up to, I believe it was Purple Door, I can't remember the name of the festival, maybe it's Creation, completely drunk, and so it just kind of changed the conversation of what that music is. And you have a lot of people, a lot of bands now trying to go Christian because there's still money in it, so they're throwing words like Jesus instead of Janine in their songs about how they love, and it's become kind of a bit of a monster.
I'm sure it has, because like a lot of listeners don't make a differentiation anymore, and they're just like, Jesus take the wheel, all that, country, it's this, it's that, it doesn't matter. But some people were very much so like, wait a minute, did they go Christian rock? If they're rigid about the category, it probably ruins the experience a little.
Well, I mean, U2 is a Christian band, but they don't get sold in Christian bookstores or anything like that.
Right.
So,
and it doesn't hurt anybody to not know that about them.
Of course.
Right.
So music, like just going back to saying about art and music and culture being an experience.
Yeah.
You put the CD on. If you like it because they say Jesus, cool. If you don't, who cares? Have the experience. Have the moment. There's nothing wrong with that.
So what does that say about you? You said you grew up very evangelical.
Yeah.
And you said now you associate more spirituality with like larger number of things and things like that. Do you feel like you're going to come completely full circle as you age, or do you feel like you're in a new place now?
I really felt growing up like I had a connection to God. I felt like He spoke to me, quote unquote, and I was the worship leader for a number of years at a couple churches. And when it really went away for me is when I realized that I was pulling strings, that I could create emotional moments, and it wasn't necessarily the Spirit moving, but it was me ramping up a song a certain way to get people to feel a certain thing. And that's kind of when I started to walk away from it. Also, I walked off the stage when they had some prosperity preacher come up and say, today's the 800-time blessing if you give $200 or whatever. So music changed for me when I stopped doing that. It became less fun for me, and I still goof around on the guitar. I still play a lot, but I don't think I'll ever perform in that way again. I don't ever want to be that person again. Not that it's good for some people, and it creates some good positive community, and when it's done within the right parameters, and it's not control, and it's not bullshit. And you know, I have a brother that's 10 years younger than me that's very involved. We have good spirited debates about gay marriage and evolution and all kind of stuff. I think you just have to use your brain and be logical about some of this stuff. But at the same token, realize that you have to love people. So I had this conversation with someone that is actually going to be involved with the gallery, is Chris Ambar, who might be on a future show.
Oh yeah, I'd love to have him. I got a line out to him for sure.
So Chris Ambar was the police chaplain for Youngstown. And you can't imagine what that has to be when you go to someone's house that just got shot on the south side. And anyway, so he's ordained, he's a minister, he's a comic book artist, he's a crazy guy. It'll be probably one of your best shows ever.
Nice.
So I'm telling him about how I don't feel that connection anymore. I don't feel like everything just dissipated and I'm out in space. And I have no connection anymore. And I'm talking about my frustration with it because I still want to feel spiritual, but I don't want to operate in that world anymore. And I really felt after the conversation, like I feel like God speaks to me through people and connections and purpose. And so my purpose is clear. We kind of talked about it earlier. People, obviously, even what's going on right now. And that's the realm that I operate in. Will I ever come full circle back to what I was? Hell no.
Yeah, okay. Well, then this is probably something you've made a connection with before, but you said something about how with Christianity you realized you could kind of force the emotion, like you could just, before any song, mention God or something and then have people listen to it in that context. It sounds to me like you've taken a positive spin on that same idea, because one of the first things you said in this interview had to do. You want to go that way? Yeah. One of the first things you did that had to do with this interview was one of the first things you said. I'm sorry, was that you had to look at art from more than just the piece. It had to have context. So it sounds like, and maybe I'm just wrapping this up with a perfect little pink bow, but it sounds like you realized you could influence things in such a way, but then you put a positive spin on it. Like you didn't influence it with what you considered to be a negative energy with the evangelical, with the, donate this and you'll have this. Or,
right.
Think about God only when you hear this song and stuff. It sounds like you're like now, you're taking it into people and places instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's, I'm just doing the human experience. I mean, we all live in the same place. We all interact with each other. There's no reason why we have to limit it to just a conversation or just a moment. There's something special about breaking bread and truly connecting with someone. And I think we limit ourselves when we don't do that. When we just focus on what we want and our needs and what we want to talk about rather than what someone's real core concerns are. I was in a car accident about 3 years ago. It was a really bad accident. Face was all cut up, stitches, all kind of stuff. Spent the night in the hospital. My car was totaled, and I didn't have my cell phone was dead. Didn't have a way to get home. So I walked home. They released me in my gown, full of blood, covered, and I walked from St. E's to my home at the time in Camel.
Wow, man.
And I had a very good friend come over, Leslie, took care of me. She bought me soup. I mean, she did all this stuff, and that meant the world to me. But it's just a small act. It doesn't take that much time. And when we do that, that's when true good relationships happen, healthy things. And sometimes we just don't take the time to invest. Mm-hmm. We get too busy with our own selves. So relating that back to art and the experience, you have that human connection. I don't want to see a piece of work and not know the person behind it, because that's an expression of who they are in some ways. Like Eric Allman, who you've interviewed. Every one of his works has a story behind it. And if you're just looking at it, you're not going to totally get what it's about.
Right.
But if you know Eric and you get to know him a little bit, he's the guy that's going to be in a mask at the art show.
Yes.
And there's a reason why he does that. I'm sure you've got into some of that.
Yeah.
Then it becomes part of the experience. It's like you're sharing something of yourself, which happens to you a lot as a band because you are writing down words that people interpret. And you're sharing something of yourself, whether it's goofy or funny or whether it's deep and personal.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's cool. Yeah, putting it a lot more on the person than it's the spirit coming from the person rather than the spirit going into the person, rather, or something like that. Even.
Right.
Well, that's pretty cool. And what do you think of when you hear the word nursery?
I think of the literal term nursery. So when I first heard your podcast, I thought it was going to be about plants, and I know you and Ellen are into that. I want to hear from you what it means to you.
I guess one of the things in the definition talks about incubation and something that's just growing. So in my head, yeah, it has to do with plants. It has to do with life, birth. And so that gives us the excuse to have this conversation, and just we don't have to know what we're talking about, because this podcast is an incubation of just a random stream of consciousness. So, like, in my head, that's why the name fit. It's just that, like, we have a song called Nursery. We lived on a nursery.
Yeah, that's where
and like, we feel like we're always growing. We're always incubating new ideas. Everything's always pretty fresh, whether it's in the eyes of what new kinds of art you want at your gallery, or in the eyes of how you want to turn a corner as a musician by buying a mandolin, or by, third class, we got to write, we've been writing for years, we got to turn a corner. It's always a test subject, and it makes me feel good to see the band screw up, because I realize, like, the sloppiness and the errors and the imperfection are part of it.
Yeah.
So it's just a giant license to be allowed to be imperfect. That's what this podcast is.
So let me interview you for a minute.
Go ahead.
What is your definition of success? And you can ask me the same thing.
Sure.
As a band, is it a gold record? Is it signing to a major label? Is it playing a big show? What is it for you?
I guess it's just like, if there was proof of, like, a decent amount of people listening to the music for emotional reasons, and getting them through their day, like, that's successful to me. It might not be as many as I think it is, but I've seen proof that the music that me and my friends have made have helped people through even things as extreme as, like, a crisis, possibly. And I'm not saying, like, somebody's having a moment where they're upset and then they put the song on and it makes them happy again, but I'm saying I've had plenty of people come up to me and say, I lost this family member and this song makes me feel better about it, and stuff like that. So, like, that's my goal, like, to have a cult that cares a lot rather than a large audience who cares a little is the goal, I guess.
I mean, that's perfect, and that's what you want. That's what creates community. Is you want to know the people that are listening to the music, and you want to connect with them. And if I were to be in a band, that's exactly would be my perspective. Is that I wouldn't necessarily want to be on a tour bus across the world, but I would love to make something that mattered.
Yes.
And so any venture and any goal that you do, you always have to look at what's the end goal. So the end goal for you is pretty clearly defined. You want to make an impact on people.
Yeah, and just to know that it really is getting in people's hands who aren't throwing it away. Just to know, maybe it's not a lot of hands, but that feels really good. Do we want it to be more financially successful? Yes. Do we want, like, are we always really hard on ourselves and think that we're not where we should be? Yes, but that's part of life. That's what you have to do. We're happy, and like, yeah, I'm sure that's how it feels for you. You're taking the leap as far as like really wanting to strongly represent art in this state and in this town. So you gotta always kind of be like, oh, what should I improve? What could I do different? You have to just do that all the time, unfortunately. I wish there was a point where you were like, it's all good. We did it. But that's just not part of life.
Yeah, you always have to try to get better, and that's the cool thing about art, is that good art spawns other good art, and so, I mean, galleries statewide have been kind of having a renaissance. I mean, Canton has 20 galleries. Mm-hmm. Youngstown could have a couple. I mean, why not?
Oh yeah.
So you're seeing statewide things start to pick up in the art community, and we can be a part of that. We'll be happy to.
Yeah, man, and I'm sure you will be. To a small or large extent. I heard you talk to me, on the phone about this gallery, and you were saying like there's not a lot of places that are just straight up like a gallery. Mm-hmm. And like that's just nice. Like poetry readings and shows and whatever obviously complement everything, but this is not a coffee shop that has art in it. This is not a, you kind of said it like that.
Yeah, it's the sole purpose of it is for art and promoting art and artists and everything that we do. If we ever do an event that's not art, kick me in the ass, because that's not our purpose. We're not going to run out to wedding parties. We're not going to have birthday parties or anything like that. We're not going to be a bar or a restaurant. We're going to be solely about art, and everything we do has to be about that.
Well, then, do you have any plugs for people? Because even though the building isn't technically like open yet, yeah. Correct? What do you have to say to people about where they can go to find out about Soap Gallery or about the art that you recommend in general?
We will have a website up whenever I can finish it. It'll be soapgalleryyo.com. Our Facebook page is up right now. It is facebook.com/soapgalleryyo. And email me, call me, maybe. Sorry, that was bad.
That's great. No, I didn't even catch that for a second. Yeah. No, that's good. And then there's a Twitter, Soap Gallery Yo. Yeah.
Yep.
So guys, find him on there, connect with him. And then can you say, "Look, Mom, we're on a podcast"?
Look, Mom, we're on a podcast.
Mom, you know what I'm gonna say. I say it every time. We're on a podcast. Look at me. Look at me now, Mom. No. And then, if there's anything else you want to impart on our listeners before we go, feel free.
One thing I just want to say, participate. Go to a paint and sip. Go to a poetry reading. Create some culture. Do something. Don't just sit there and consume. There's nothing wrong with making a shitty piece of art. It's important to you. It's an expression of you. Do it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fun. And then support others that do that. Because be friends with an artist. They're a lot like cats. They take lots of naps and sometimes lick each other. But they're incredible people with perspectives that you could never have in your own mind. And it gives you a different appreciation for art and what it is and that person.
That's good advice, man. Very good advice. Don't be afraid to just do it imperfectly sometimes. And then don't do it till you're satisfied. You won't be. Just do it.
You'll never be satisfied. And that's the cool thing about it, is that you can always continue to create and collaborate with others. And the more stuff you see, the more, I'm sure it's the same with music, the more music you hear that's different, the more you feel inspired. It's the same thing with art.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, thanks, man. This has been an especially great interview, so appreciate you having on. And listeners, make sure you stay tuned. Check out Soap Gallery, look into it. If you're somebody, especially like a YSU student or somebody who's just real into visual art and you want more to be around this area for you to be able to explore visual art, and this is your podcast, So, all right, guys, thanks a lot for listening, and have an awesome evening or day or morning or twilight.
Thanks for making me walk around 93-degree weather.
Yeah, really. Or Breaking Dawn or whatever. Okay. See you guys.
Hi there, this is Zoe Nightingale, and you're listening to Nursery, a podcast from Ohio's Creative Voice.